how will West Coast and Freo respond after a shocking weekend at the footy? Plenty of that coming up here on What's Ahead in the West.
Freo start with a flurry. A huge win. Reid gets to work and powering away with a couple of bounces. Harley Reid on full show. Unbelievable! And they go at it again.
Welcome back to Footy West. You are tuning into What's Ahead here in the West for round two. There is plenty to talk about today for the Eagles and the Dockers. I am Lucas. I am your Footy West host. And we'll jump straight into things today. And we've got some round two headlines straight away. And we'll start first with the Dockers, their performance on Saturday. And they've got a first home game coming up on the weekend. Sunday afternoon footy at Optus Stadium once again, up against the Swans. Will the Swans go 0-3? Or can they beat the Dockers? That's a very interesting prospect there. Will the Dockers go 0-2? And also their identity needs to be on show. We didn't see much of Freo footy as such on the weekend against Geelong. So can we sort of see that happening and see some sort of identity there, and sort of Fremantle playing a less vanilla, as labelled by Justin Longmuir, a less vanilla game style there. So plenty to ask of the Dockers going into this round, and we'll go across to the West Coast Eagles after a woeful performance at home, to be frank. And they'll look to respond in some way, and there's more. We'll talk about that more a bit later on in the show. How will they respond? What will they do to respond? Who will step up? Speaking of who, the leaders, they need to step up for West Coast. So there's plenty to work on there for the Eagles, but we'll touch on that now, and we look at who needs to step up. I've named 4 players going into this round. So you've got Tim Kelly, Jamie Cripps, Liam Duggan, and Jaden Hunt as well, I've put on there. Now, teams are out tomorrow. I am not sure if Jaden Hunt will keep his spot. I imagine he probably will. And I imagine West Coast will probably give these players a couple of weeks to sort of make a case for their spot. So I don't, even though many people might be calling for it, I don't necessarily believe that they will drop people after one game. So that's something to look at. But if we get to round 5 and some of these guys are still not performing, I think their spots could be up for grabs. So that's an interesting watch. But these players not only need to lift probably their on-field performance, but they're senior players in this group now. And this squad has a lot of young players coming through. So you need these guys to stand up and sort of take them under their wing. I know I've heard Jamie Cripps, he's sort of taken Noah Long type under his wing. So that's important for the development for him. But we need guys like Tim Kelly to really step up in the midfield. And Jaden Hunt and Liam Duggan to sort of show some more leadership. I actually rate Liam Duggan as a captain. As a footballer, probably less. But I actually think Liam Duggan speaks quite well. And I actually think he's quite a good leader for this group. Oscar Allen, on the other hand, I'm not too sure about. But in terms of sort of the speaking and the team cohesion and leading the squad, I think Liam Duggan does an all right job at that. They probably need a bit more from him. But these guys are all senior players who need to step up for the Eagles and bring their midfield and their young guys up to the task at hand. And we go back to the next match for the Eagles as we look ahead. And they're playing Brisbane. They are playing Brisbane, the reigning premiers, at the Gabba. It could be a bloodbath. It could get really ugly. And that is a worry for the West Coast Eagles and all their young guys. It's as much as it's a telling on the scoreboard, it's telling for morale as well. Young kids, you want to get them wins. You want to get wins into their system. And this could be a big weekend, a big heavy loss coming up for them. And we'll take a look at West Coast's record at the Gabba. It's not great. They haven't won this against Brisbane since their flag. You look there, plenty of losses there. So 2019, 44, 2020, 30, 2022, 75. So it goes on. They've lost there since 2018. The average loss margin as well is 54 points at the Gabba versus Brisbane. So it's one thing to keep losing there, but the loss margin is a story in itself. So I expect there's going to be another absolute bloodbath here. The last time they actually won at the ground was during the COVID years. It was September 2020. So it's been nearly 5 years since they've actually won at that ground, full stop. You look at that and you combine it with the young guys there, and the inexperience and the woeful performances of some of the senior guys, it could get really ugly for West Coast, and they'll need to do something to sort of look after that. But that will be an interesting watch going into the weekend. Now we look to the Fremantle Dockers, and I've put something on the agenda today that is quite interesting, and it's talked about a lot, particularly in the footy media by the big names. And we'll look at their ruck, at their big men. They have got a lot of sort of ruckmen on their list, and they've got two very good quality ruckmen. So we'll take a look at them here. We got Sean Darcy, Luke Jackson, and Liam Reedy there. So you look at that, and you've got Sean Darcy there and Luke Jackson. You're paying them two of your most highly paid players on your list. And neither of them are out on the park together each week. They're never playing together, and they're on massive bucks, and it's time to make a decision about who you want going forward. Liam Reedy, probably not up to it yet. I don't know if he will. There's still plenty of time for improvement. Probably ruckmen tend to come on late, but you look at Liam Reedy and think, well, he's up against Darcy and Jackson, so that's going to be a problem for him, particularly when there's a competition for that spot. Sean Darcy, I just think he hasn't been able to get onto the park enough. He's not reliable enough. In a premiership side, consistency is absolutely vital. And Fremantle at the moment do not have consistency within their ruck stocks. So you need to just pick one and stick with it. There's no point having two premier ruckmen. And you look sort of at premiership sides, they don't necessarily have big star ruckmen aside from maybe Max Gawn for the D's in 2021, and perhaps Darcy Cameron, he's pretty quality for the Pies in 2023. But I don't think they should be focusing all this money into the ruckman. You pick one and you stick with him. If he gets injured, it's great to have depth, and that's what Freo have gone for here. They've gone for depth, but they really need to sort it out, and I think continuity is a big thing for them if they want a premiership push. They need to pick who they would like. I would go with Luke Jackson. I think he's very good in the ruck. He plays very well in the ruck, and he has the ability to go forward, which Sean Darcy might not have or do as well as Luke Jackson. But I think Luke Jackson, if I was picking the team, I would be going with Luke Jackson, and I would not have signed Sean Darcy onto that long-term deal. I would have looked at his trade value, who needs him. I think of Geelong. Geelong were interested in Sean Darcy, and I think he would have been, it would have been a good decision for the Dockers to sort of trade him away for some good currency to the Cats, because Luke Jackson has stayed relatively fit and he's proven to be a good player for them. So I would be going with Luke Jackson in the ruck with the ability to push forward, because you always like ruckmen to be able to do those kinds of things. So if you ask me, I think they should settle with Luke Jackson. But with Sean Darcy coming back in the next couple of weeks, it will be interesting to see the next attempt at how the Dockers sort of attempt to go with Darcy and Jackson. So that's a watch for the Dockers. And I've sort of graded them as well here. I've got Sean Darcy probably in the middle. I'd be going Luke Jackson, and Liam Reedy still gets some work there, as you can see. So there's plenty to think about there for the Dockers. Don't get me wrong, Sean Darcy is a very good, he'll be a good ruckman, but I don't think he should really be staying at Fremantle. He's got the long-term deal, obviously, but I'm not sure if that was the right decision when you've got Luke Jackson there already. So we move now on from that, and we head to the big questions for this week, round 2 of the AFL season. And there's some burning questions in both camps of West Australian footy, probably not in the best state as it has been before, but we'll head to the Dockers first, and Will Longmuir get it right this week. There were obviously that I touched on in the Western wash-up for round 1, his comments made in his post-match press conference after the Cats onslaught. He said he just didn't get it right, he didn't prepare them right Well, let's see if this week he can back it up. Let's see if this week he can get it right and prepare his team right, because at the end of the day, that's a senior coach's job. You need to be preparing your team for what's ahead of them, and I think this week there's a lot of pressure on him to do that against Sydney, who have got a new coach. So that's an advantage that Justin Longmuir may have. He might not. Maybe Dean Cox is really onto it. But Justin Longmuir has been in the system for 5 years now as a senior coach, going on 6. And Dean Cox, it'll be his 3rd game as a senior coach, albeit some experience under John Longmire at Sydney. But you look at it and you think, okay, Justin Longmuir is surely going to have the upper edge over Dean Cox. But that's a wait and see. So you would hope that they are being prepared right by Justin Longmuir. It's unacceptable, really, if your coach isn't preparing you right, because then what's the point of having him there? So it's a big week for Justin Longmuir, and I reckon he should be able to get things back on track for them. But speaking of back on track, we look to the West Coast Eagles. Will they be able to respond? What response will we get from the Eagles? And when you think of West Coast Eagles in 2025 and responding to a loss, in terms of these circumstances, I'm not sort of thinking about the score that they put on the board. I'm sort of looking more at, okay, so you've got your on-field response. That's the thing that you need to be looking at. So if I was Andrew McQualter, I would be saying, right, boys, I wouldn't say we're probably going to get smashed. I would say, I don't care about the scoreboard. The scoreboard will look after itself. What happens, happens. I want to see on-field improvement. I want to see contest improvement. I want to see effort. I want to see the standards upped. I want to see glimpses of our transition of the ball movement that we want to get going. So with West Coast this season, when we talk about improvements, it's not necessarily about win-loss. You should be expecting at least 4 or 5 wins, if you ask me, for West Coast. But more importantly, it's the on-field stuff. What on-field improvements are you getting? Are our standards improving? Is our effort improving? Is our work rate improving? It's all those little things. And against Brisbane, who are a quality opposition, for West Coast, you would want to see these on-field things improve. So that's the response that you would be looking for if you were West Coast, okay? If you were Andrew McQualter. So I don't necessarily think it'll show on the scoreboard. They might get smashed by 70 odd points, but if you've seen enough glimpses of work rate and players are trying as hard as they can, the quality's just not there yet, that's okay. I would be happier to be smashed by 70 points and see the effort and stuff going on than if I was smashed by 70 points but didn't see anything. So that's the response that you want to get from West Coast. There's no doubt they will lose this game. I'm 99% certain they will lose this game. They could pull a Richmond, who knows, but they will probably lose this game. So you want to be seeing these standards type of stuff. So that gets to the tips for this round. Obviously, Brisbane are going to absolutely annihilate West Coast. The official margin, I've gone by 72 there. And then for the Dockers, I've gone by 13. I reckon they'll get the job done over the Swans in Perth. So that's ahead for the West Coast Eagles and the Fremantle Dockers this round. Thank you for tuning in to what's ahead in the West. I hope I can see you again back soon on the show, and I look forward to the action out here in the West this weekend.